Two tanks in the kit, named Part A and Part B, regulate the amount of the material delivered to the mixing nozzle when using together as a pair. Once they lose their consistent flow, they both need changing. If either tank has a temperature below 18 degrees Celsius, as indicated on tank A, place a heat blanket over them and bring the temperature of both tanks above 18 degrees Celsius. A normal heater will do. If both tanks stay close to each other and heat together, the tanks will have a similar temperature.
What you have to worry about is excessive amounts of dirt, sawdust, cobwebs, spiders, that sort of thing. The general surface as it is here is clean enough to spray on. The foam's going to stick to whatever it's sprayed to. Give them a little bit of a shake, just to mix them. Okay, and remove the transport cap on Part B. Keep that aside because it needs to be replaced later. Unwind the hose so that it doesn't have any tangles in it. As you'll see, everything is colour coded. The red with Part B and blue for the A tank. Being that we're using more than one set of tanks, we also have ball valves that go on the tanks. The idea of these is so that when you change one set to the next, you can isolate your lines so you don't have foam leaking out the end during the changeover. Ensure that these are tight so you don't have any leakage. The next thing you do is you attach the hose.
Use the provided spanner to avoid over-tightening.
Next thing we need to do is lubricate the ports on the gun, and this is where the lubricating jelly or petroleum jelly comes in. You need additional, just normal Vaseline can be used. Tear it open and squeeze liberal amounts into the gun tip. Just mix it around with your finger. The next thing you do is install the nozzle. The nozzle can only go in one way. At the top you have a square section. Insert the nozzle in to the gun, and very importantly, pull the nozzle back until it clicks. Open the tap fully. Next stage is you open the ball valves to allow the chemical to come through. And repeat for the A side. On the applicator gun you have a yellow safety trigger. The yellow safety trigger is used to protect the trigger from being accidentally pulled. Next thing you do is stand about a foot away from the surface. You squeeze the yellow and then you squeeze the trigger. The foam is now well mixed. There's no odd colours around the edges of the foam, and you'll notice in a few seconds that it will start rising. It will take about 45 seconds to rise and then skins off so you can actually touch it. The reaction is what's known as an exothermic reaction. An indication if the tanks are too cold, this reaction will be a lot slower and it will still be quite tacky 5 to 10 seconds after it's finished. That being the case, we would recommend that you apply a bit more heat to your tanks if you happen to be foaming in the middle of winter. Once it stops rising, you'll find that it's pretty much dry to touch. Put your hand right into it and pull a lump out. Now you'll see the foam is a very even cell structure, nice tight cell structure. There shouldn't be any swirls or discolorations in there. Again, that's an indication of improper mixing. With this system, would be related to cold chemicals. You're now actually ready to spray. Eject your nozzle by pressing the yellow button. Your new nozzle, again, clips on as we showed before, ensuring that it locks into place. Now you're ready to start spraying the surfaces. Literally just squeeze the trigger as we did before and move the gun. You adjust the distance you are from the surface to allow your spray pattern to evenly spread. Finer one, again, get closer and just move a bit quicker. Now you'll see here I'm just going straight over the wires, which is fine. where you have to spray again into a cavity, because if you didn't quite get it, wait till the foam sets. Don't spray wet foam onto wet foam, as this retards the actual growth. You'll notice I'm starting and stopping with the gun. The nozzle life is fine for this. The main provisor is that you don't stop longer than it cures. You can keep spraying the whole wall with the one nozzle if you needed to. Now, one interesting fact you'll note with the foam is we're not filling the entire cavity. It's not necessary to, as this will leave room for future wiring and piping should you wish to run it. The other important thing to note actually with this particular wall, the studs are only a 70mm stud. If you wish to comply with an R2 requirement, if you put a normal R2 bat in here, you would actually compress it and it wouldn't give you the actual rating. The foam, we can achieve an R2 with 40mm of foam. Now any areas you want to again go over for thickness, again just spread over them once the foam is cured. You'll notice what I'm trying to do is cover the foam in one shot, and if I do have to go back over it, in some instances you don't have a choice, but in most cases you try and always keep one pass with your shot. If you wish to apply the foam a bit thicker in your first coat, the trick to it is actually just to run slower and you get more expansion the first time over. When you're spraying the gun, it indicates it's finished when it starts spitting at you. It's very important to stop at this time, otherwise you'll end up with unmixed foam and it could end up just running down and onto the floor, where you're best just to change the kits.
Close ball valves on both tanks. Turn off taps on both tanks. Remove ball valve from tap. Some chemical might come out. Just wipe off with a rag. Then replace valve onto a new tank and tighten. Do the same for the second tank. Remove safety cap and replace cap on used tank. Replace valve and tighten. Open taps on tanks, then open valves, and you are ready to spray again.
One thing you'll find when you've sprayed the foam is you will have some overspray on the outside of the studs, which will interfere with lining the wall with plaster. Simply take a paint scraper. Once the foam is dried, about 10 minutes after you sprayed it even, and the foam will just peel straight off, leaving you a smooth enough surface to line your plasterboard with. We're often asked whether our product contains formaldehyde, and the simple answer to this is no, it doesn't. Another point which was commonly asked is the fire retardancy of the product, or how it complies. The foam is tested to AS 1530 Part 3, which meets the BCA requirements. Further to this, we test to BS 4753. Now this standard is used in the LNG industry for flame spread measuring. In that actual test, unlike AS 1530 Part 3, we actually ignite the foam under a flame for 60 seconds. And then the flame is removed and they test how far the flame moves and how long it takes to self-extinguish. A common question we get asked is about the recycling of the cylinders. We're happy to do this. The one provisor is that the cap that came on the B tank is replaced before it is returned to us, so we can reuse them. Firstly, with the foam, if it's applied at 25mm thick, this is actually enough foam to stop 70% of the heat loss within the building. The first 10mm of foam you spray onto any surface will work as an air barrier. And if you did apply a second 25mm, i.e. 50mm, you'd actually deal with 90% of the heat loss.